Hello there, everyone. I have decided that I promised on my main channel that I would do some television show vlogs, and I may or may not still get around to that. But I've decided that there is something else I would like to vlog about, some other piece of media, namely books. And today we're going to talk about the book that I happen to have been just finishing reading when I got this idea. I finished it, and this is Hidden Empire. This is the first book in the Saga of the Seven Sons, and it kind of sucks. Which is, I mean, it's a really heavily acclaimed book for some fucking reason. Okay, I kind of get why this book might be popular. There definitely are redeeming qualities about it. So let's start with those. Let's start with the positives. Um, First off, the book is engaging at times, particularly near the end. Secondly, some of the world building, actually I would say pretty much all of the world building, is relatively interesting. Um, and just so you know, spoiler warning, I'm not going to hold back spoiler wise. So if you have any intention of ever reading this, you should probably not watch this video. Um, so, and actually, the interesting world building is probably the best thing about this book. Um, and some of the plot points are also kind of interesting. The Therons, in particular, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, um, are, pretty interesting. So why do I say it kind of sucks? And I emphasize that it only kind of sucks. It doesn't truly suck. Here's the thing. What I just described is the exception to the rule. This book essentially has two or three modes to it that it switches between. The most uncommon of one of those modes is the good mode, when it's exploring the world, and this only starts happening after it kind of gets going, which it takes a while to do. It can be kind of good when it's just showing you its world, when somewhat interesting things are happening, when we're seeing the stuff in here that's good, that's interesting. Like, again, like the World Forest is interesting. Thism is very slightly interesting. Actually, I don't like Thism all that much. No, it's not all that good. But the relationship between the Terran, let me make sure I get this right, Hanseatic League, and basically everyone else is interesting. The roamers are interesting. The world building is interesting. But that is often, the nature of world building is to be in the background. That interesting world building is generally overshadowed by other things. And that is what kills this book. The other stuff to it. Let's start. I had this all organized. I almost rehearsed this speech, or at least fragments of it beforehand, and now I'm fumbling now that I'm live. Let's start with, like, the first, I don't know, 125 pages where fuck all happens. Fuck all. Okay. The plot of this book, spoilers, is humanity, the biggest faction of humanity, the Terran Hanseatic League, Hanseatic League. Basically, they turn a gas giant into a star using discovered archaeologist stuff from long lost, forgotten race number 5380. I don't know that okay, to be fair, let me try to. I'm not. This was written, I think, in the early 2000s. Um, Let me try to find a copyright date. Yeah, 2002. So post Halo. Post Halo. So this is after the Forerunners came along. Just so you get an idea of how that was not original at the time of this thing being written. So they found the Clickus. They found the Clickus torch in some archaeological ruins from cliched aliens who, oh my gosh, they built all this shit and they were really advanced, but now they're gone. What happened? Cliched bullshit. And they turn a gas giant into a star. Now, unbeknownst to them, that gas giant is inhabited by things called, it's like I think it's hydrogues. I think hydrogues. I'm just going to say hydrogues. And naturally, the hydrogues get rather agitated that millions of them just got killed. And so after the torch's launch, 100 pages of nothing happens. And I need to emphasize this. This is, see, you see this thickness? The aliens first fucking do something. In other words, the plot starts almost there. Here. All of this, nothing fucking happens. Fuck all. Okay, that's maybe a slight exaggeration. Nothing of importance happens. And I get why some of the stuff here is here. Because for one thing, some of the characters need to be established. And this is a good time to do it. But there is a lot of shit that seems completely superfluous. So, for example, there's a plot cul-de-sac in here where the Eldirans, oh god, I haven't even mentioned the Eldirans, they're the worst fucking thing about this book. Or at least the Mage Imperator is. And I say that without hesitation, he is the worst fucking thing about this book. God. So, what the Eldirans are, is they're the aliens that gave humanity starship fuel. And they're kind of there, and humans and Eldirans know it, kind of like each other, but also kind of don't trust each other. That's it. That's the end. So, God, I don't even remember what I was about to say. Okay. So, yeah, I don't remember what I was about to say. I'm sorry. I'm going to have to go start a new tangent now. Okay, I was talking about how fuck all happens for the vast majority of it. Okay. Parts of this stuff, some of the characters here didn't... Oh, yeah. One of the things that was superfluous was that the Eldirans... There's a plot cul-de-sac where the Eldirans are, struck with, a plague. A colony of theirs is struck with a plague. And that plague... God. And that plague, but it's not important, it makes them blind and then kills them, basically. And, oh dear God, that section is completely superfluous. They could have cut it completely. I'm tempted to say that they could have and probably should have cut out the entire plot regarding um, fucking Raymond. Let me make sure I get his name right, because it's somewhere in here. Raymond Raymond Aguera, who is, by the way, almost certainly white, despite that name. Um, because he's white because he later impersonates someone who would necessarily be white. And there's no mention of his skin color being changed, even though a bunch of other shit about him has changed. So mentioned. I dare say even his entire plot could probably be totally expunged from this book. It is, in fact, it would probably be better because, and that's a good segue. But before I get that's a good segue into the next one. But before I get I'm going to seriously hammer into the ground. Okay, Space Gypsy love triangle. There's a love triangle between three characters, and granted, one of the members of that love triangle does make for a relatively impactful moment at the end of this. I count the plot as starting when the aliens first do something, but actually, I could probably justify saying that the point where shit actually starts happening is significantly later. I could probably justify dismissing the entire first half of this book as completely superfluous to anything other than establishing that certain specific things exist and then periodically reminding you that, oh yeah, those things exist. It's that poorly paced. It's that poorly thought out that fucking massive. Okay. So like I'm just kind of thinking the entire thing with what's her name? Like Saring, the third son of the Theroth people. And that's another thing about this book, by the way. It's confusing as fuck until you're ways into it. It takes far too long to get a handle on who's who. Like, do you trust yourself to be able to tell apart Raymond and Reynold on the fly? You'd better be able to keep them straight because they're completely different fucking characters. Better. What about the psychic humans who worship trees and the psychic aliens who worship the most fucking biggest fucking abomination in existence, who I'll talk about later because God, I hate him. You know, it's that granted that becomes a little easier later on, but it is actually hard at first to tell the Therans and the Ildirans apart. Because, like the Ildirans, the Therans use made-up names. And it's not clear at first why it is that some of the Ildirans have the letter or the two letters after their names. It's their name apostrophe and then two letters indicating their place in the social structure, or it's really their genetic heritage, but those are side picture. Whatever. Point is, there's a lot of shit in here that's very similar to other shit that's also in here, at least at first, and it can be difficult to keep that straight. I got a handle of it probably a couple pages, probably by maybe an eighth of the way in, but no, not that quickly, I got a handle of it eventually, but it took way longer than it had any excuse to take. I'll put it that way. I thoroughly hold that it was not my fault that I couldn't keep this shit straight. That was not me being a bad reader. That was this thing fucking kind of sucking. I have to remember kind of, because despite my rage, it was genuinely engaging at times. Okay. So that's that problem. The problem of nothing fucking happening for gigantic sections of it is eclipsed by a much larger problem, which is that this novel is grimdark shit. Fucking grimdark shit. And let me explain what that term is. Not all grimdark is bad, but bad grimdark is fucking insufferable. And this is probably bright for grimdark shit, but it's still grimdark shit. Because, like, let's start talking about him now. The Mage Imperator. Spoiler alert, the Eldirans are evil. Or at least the Mage Imperator, their leader, which is the god thing I mentioned earlier, is evil. Spoiler alert. He's evil. Most of the other Eldirans seem to be good. Though they blindly worship him and everything and follow all his orders and shit. But the Mage Imperator is evil, and cartoonishly so. Like, I mean, granted, he barely has motivations. It's just like, the reason I say he's cartoonishly evil is because, for one thing, his personality is basically reducible to, I am the thoughtful leader of this great people. I have to make difficult decisions. Mwahaha, evil genetic experiments. Oh, and let's see, I'm thoughtful ruler, and let's see, Thism, sprinkly Thism, I rule with justice. Oh, you know too much, kill! And it's not jarring. It's not jarring. It's just that fucking... I guess when I reflect on it, his motivations... Do you know what? I was about to say his motivations technically... No. No, they fucking don't. They have not been explained yet. So maybe the later novels will explain why the Mage Imperator is such a douche for seemingly no fucking reason. As you know, as the mystery is unraveled, we'll learn why he has to cover shit up and kill people to do it, and we'll learn why it is he has to fucking, do evil genetic experiment shit, which was only barely touched upon in this novel, but it's touched upon enough that it makes me hate him. And I guess maybe if it wasn't written well enough that I could care about the characters, I wouldn't be infuriated when they get killed for absolutely no reason, in a manner that serves no function whatsoever for the narrative, other than, being grimdark shit. Beyond the Mage Imperator, which I still hate the Mage Imperator the most, but something in me tells me I should hate fucking Basil. He has this fucking, I think, made up last name. It's impossible to pronounce. It's like Wenceslas or something. I'm sorry if that's a real name and it's yours. Your name is fine. It only looks stupid on him. Basil. Fuck Basil. I hate him so much. And granted, these are all villains. You're supposed to hate them, but there's an art to making a villain hateable in a way that you can root against them, but still tolerable in a way that you enjoy reading about them or watching them. So, like, Death Note manages to make Kira despicable, but still enjoyable. The Joker in The Dark Knight is despicable, but enjoyable. Plenty of stories succeed at this. Most stories succeed at this. So there's no excuse to fail. None at all. I think what makes me hate him so much and Basil is worse than the Mage Imperator in this respect. He has absolutely no fucking reason to be as evil as he is. I'm sorry, none. Like, not only that, it actively works against his own goals. So, like, here's what I've hinted at. I've mentioned Raymond of Guerra. Here is here's the plot regarding that. Okay, so old King Frederick is as the name implies old and kind of senile in a way that makes it to where he can't effectively serve as a figurehead, because that's all the king is, a figurehead. And so Basil needs a new king, and so what does he do? He gets this guy, Raymond, kidnaps him, kills his family, and then says, "Be king for me." And that would not be a problem, except that the kill his family part was completely motherfucking superfluous. Like, the justification is supposed to be that Basil was worried that they would recognize Raymond. Well, guess fucking what? They changed his appearance anyway. They made him blonde. They changed his eye color. They did shit to change his appearance. I'm sure they could have changed his facial structure as well. After all, they can fucking travel across stars. I'm sure that they can handle plastic fucking surgery. So it's like, you're Basil, and you're sitting there, and you're like, what? Okay, so I could either make it so that this guy's family doesn't manage to recognize him, or I could kill this guy's family and basically make him hate me when his cooperation is the one thing I need for my plan to fucking work. Excuse me. Allergies are a bitch for me right now for some reason. And so what does he fucking do? Burn his house down, rather his apartment complex, and kill a lot of people. There's no fucking fans of this will try to justify it. Will try to justify why it was that. No. Fuck. No. It was not justified. There was absolutely no reason to do it that wasn't just completely redundant or easily accomplished by some other means. And that couple more things about how grimdark shit this is before. Actually, you know what? That pretty much summarizes how grimdark shit this is, particularly near the end. This is grimdark shit. Just just to emphasize, I think I know one reason why Raymond was in the plot, or at least one function he serves. One function he serves, which is that God is everyone in this book a jackass, except for a few. And most of those die. Or are like barely in it. So like, how many sympathetic characters live to the end of this novel? Let's think. Jess. Let me look up her name. Hold on. Yeah, Jess, sister, it's like Talia or Tazia or something. Jess, Talia, T something. That's two. Jess and T something. Raymond. Rinda, though she kind of fades out of existence, she's really only in the first half of the book. Bebob. The big Ildiran war commander. Margaret. Dee Dee, I'll count Dee Dee. Yeah, that's it. And yeah, 8, that sounds pretty good. Consider that there are fucking dozens of characters in this. Or at least a couple dozen. And most of them are horrible. Or die. And incidentally, none of the horrible ones die. So it's not like this is the cruel. It's not like we're demonstrating the even-handed fucking cruelty of the universe um here, because none of the assholes die. Like I'm thinking right now, trying to think of a contradiction to that. Does a single unsympathetic character die? I think the answer to that is no. Yeah, yeah, it is. Which, considering that several people die in this novel, that's no small shit. I mean, it's not as severe as Game of Thrones allegedly is, because I've not read Game of Thrones, though I do plan to rectify that soon. But God, okay. And so those are the first two problems with this novel: paced badly, grimdark shit. Third, it's fucking stupid and makes no goddamn sense, or at least aspects of. All of it is fucking stupid. Aspects of it make no goddamn sense. I mean, okay, there are a few smart things about this book. It paints a relatively morally complex political situation between the nations. The characters themselves are as simplistic as a goddamn lever and pulley, but the geopolitical situation is somewhat morally complex. And oh, that's another good guy. Another good characters are the the Romer speakers, and I guess Tazia's robot, and I think that legit is. So yeah, like 10, but they're overshadowed. There's a lot of assholes. Oh, and the Prime Designate. So maybe that point wasn't complete. The point is, a lot of people are assholes, and a lot of the good guys die, and there still are no bad guys die. Um, so onto this novel being fucking stupid. There are like three occasions off the top of my head in this novel where something is painted as though it were a plot twist. And literally, I read the novel, realized what was happening, and then when I saw it painted as a plot twist, I was like, wait, I wasn't supposed to have figured that out yet. And it's really insult. It's really fucking insulting. So, like I mentioned earlier, Basil burns down Raymond's house for absolutely no motherfucking reason. Ooh, if one of those family members was alive, they might recognize him, even though we've made him look completely different and trained him thoroughly, or at least plan to. And we don't, and like, fuck. Because the thing is that I was surprised when I saw that Raymond didn't immediately fix, because like literally, here's literally how it plays out. I'm tempted to read the thing to you, but though I would have to find the path, so I'm not going to do that. So it's like Raymond walks up to his house. Oh shit, it's on fire. Poirot walks up to him. Yes, here is a bunch of implausible bullshit about what it happened. I immediately doubt this. Hi, I am kidnapping you. And then when he wakes up, he doesn't suspect a motherfucking thing. Not a motherfucking thing. Even that initial "I am skeptical of this" doesn't fucking translate into later in the book. And when he finds out later, I'm like, honestly, at that point reading it, I'm like, I was kind of not surprised because I knew that this book... Kevin J. Anderson thinks I'm a fucking idiot, and he thinks you are too. That is the message I gleaned from this novel. Kevin J. Anderson thinks that everyone is a fucking idiot. Or he is one himself. Probably the former. Almost certainly the former. He just thinks that people won't be able to pick it up. Or maybe I'm missing something and he doesn't actually care that his novel and its twists are predictable as hell, at least for the most part. The second instance of this, and this one was less an issue of it being obvious, and more perhaps an issue of one of the most important plot twists in the book being in the inside motherfucking cover. Inside cover. I need a lamp, hold on. Okay, it's not turning on like it's supposed to. It's supposed to be brighter, but this is the inside cover blurb. Or well, not all of it, but basically what the inside cover blurb explains is that the idea is what I gave to you at the beginning. The idea that these hydrogues live inside gas giants and live inside these gas giants and that their planet is destroyed when it's turned into a star by the humans. That's on the inside fucking cover. It's treated like a plot twist on page goddamn 320. It's on the inside fucking cover. No, 370, not 320. And then at the end, to be fair, I accidentally read ahead because I looked at the last page to see what number it was, and I accidentally saw enough material for me to guess this, but the ending plot twist is that the Clickets robots, who are the fucking evil robots who were left behind by big, mysterious, ancient civilization that is cliched as fuck. And by the way, again, post-Halo, so he's ripping off like fucking Bungie here. He's ripping off Guilty Spark, or at least he is post-dating it. So this is not remotely fucking original in the slightest. This is a relatively old book from my perspective, because it and its entire series have been out since a little bit before I started really reading. But this is not from a prior age where any of this is excusable. So, 343. I was about to say 343 Guilty Spark does shit. It's not 343 Guilty Spark particularly, but it's the same fucking cliche as 343 Guilty Spark. Evil alien robots were lying about losing their memory. I did read ahead and saw last time where they said we lied, even though I didn't know who was speaking. I still worked it out. I think I would have worked it out anyway. At least I think I might have. I don't know. I mean, it wouldn't have made any fucking sense for them to not have their memory, given some of the stuff that happens right before that. And by right before, I mean like 10, 20 pages prior. And I mean, they're built up as being sinister throughout the entire book, because God forbid the twist actually be fucking surprising. Like, the only surprising twist is when we find out that the Mage Imperator is evil. And I don't count that because the Mage Imperator is evil. And that fact is the fucking bane. I hate him more than I hate any other fictional character. I can't think of... Oh, I can't... No. Well, no, there's one exception. One exception from like a really obscure internet thing. I I hate Freddy. Well, okay, A Nightmare on Elm Street is not bad. It's just very against my taste, and I don't like Freddy Krueger personally. Don't hate him that much. Don't hate him as much. Um, Bella from Twilight. Don't hate her as much because do you know what? She may have been a fucking harpy allegedly because I've not seen those movies in forever. But do you know what? She wasn't fucking cacklingly, cartoonishly, clichédly evil in the most goddamn pretentious of ways. What else? What else is wrong with this novel? I don't want to miss anything. Oh, here's just a tip. A tip for you all. If you feel the need, if you're a writer and you feel the need to put a glossary at the end of your novel, you're doing something wrong. Because what that means is that your world building is too convoluted and you need to smooth it out. If you feel the need to put a fucking glossary at the end of your novel. Or at the beginning. I mean, Lord of the Ring, Fellowship of the Ring had fucking encyclopedia entries at the beginning. And that was really deeply fucking inexcusable because even to someone who hasn't read The Hobbit, that information was of literally no use. It was shit you could have easily picked up from the book itself. But God, there's a timeline. There's a timeline. Another thing about this book being shittily paced. Okay, so the timeline only goes up to the beginning of the book. Yeah, it was Tazia. I just want to make sure I don't miss anything. Okay, what else do I hate? Mage Imperators. Oh! Yeah, I mentioned evil genetic experiments. Again, it's barely touched on, but the Mage Imperator, one of the things he's doing is he's doing like evil genetic shit to like make abominations and use them as test subjects. Basically, with the ultimate goal of figuring out which life forms are what kind of mixes between like the kiths, which are basically breeds of Ildirans, each of which has a specific social function, are most viable. Or maybe it's Ildirans and other species. I can't fucking tell. It clearly at least can involve other species because that's another thing that happens near the end. Is Nero one of the few sympathetic characters left that hasn't been not in the story anymore for a significant period of time? Is God, is kidnapped and taken to be like genetic thing because she has a here. Okay, this is what gets me. Ildirans and humans can have fucking babies together. No artificial shit involved. No artificial shit. They have sex, kid. And yet, the fucking Mage Imperator has to perform fucking genetic experiment shit. That that makes no sense. Maybe it's elaborated upon more in the later books. I'm open to that possibility in this case because, like I said, it's barely touched on here. But given the bullshit we're subjected to, I certainly wouldn't put it past Kevin J. Anderson, or at least the Kevin J. Anderson that wrote this. Maybe he's better elsewhere. to just kind of just give me that bullshit. And I mean, that actually, you know what? No, because a lot of the other shit that doesn't make any sense is character behavior. So, like, maybe finally have run out of criticisms of this novel and how much I fucking hate it. Um, sorry, lost my. I was saying something about how nothing makes any goddamn sense. Um, let's look at one other thing I want to mention. Um, and then I'll respond to all of the positive review quotes on the back of the cover because they're fucking lies. Um, one other thing I want to mention is that, and this is not okay. The characters are passable, but they're not anything special. Like ignoring the ones I hate, which would be Basil, the Clickus robots, and the fucking Mage Imperator. Ignoring them. The characters here are two-dimensional, at best. And to be fair, they have to be, because there's 30 gajillion of them. And there is not time to develop that many well-rounded characters. And so what does it do? Every character here is two-dimensional. Every one. Raymond is a well-meaning poor kid. And that's the end of it. That's the end. Well-meaning poor kid. That's his character. Well-meaning poor kid stereotype. Basil, fucking stupid chess master who tries and fails to be Machiavellian because he's a fucking idiot. That's his character. Mage Imperator, pseudo-benevolent, resigned leader who's actually a fucking evil, cackling maniac, but we're supposed to pretend he's morally ambiguous because he, like, does shit that anyone would do in his situation. Like, not being worse does not count as a redeeming quality. And having unstated reasons that, like, totally justify it, guys, is not a redeeming quality. Okay, other than that, who is there? Kirk Lanyon, I think, the head of the military, which, by the way, Brandon, when you recommend... I'm going to send this to you, Brandon. I already decided that. When you recommended this book to me, which, by the way, I like you as a writer, I'm never listening to another book recommendation from you. This was shit. I no longer trust your tastes. I'm sorry. You really, I think, you clearly love everything. That's I think that's the problem with your tastes in books and shit. You love everything. I've never seen you pan something. Except no, I've seen you pan one thing: Star Wars prequels. But that's not a person. It's fine if you love everything. It just means that I'm not going to trust your advice anymore. And that's like just to emphasize how much I hate this book. This has made me not trust a person recommendation-wise. Never again. But tell you what, Brandon, to make up for me saying that in this series, I'll review one of your books, and I'll try to give it a positive review, because I hope I like your books. And I've read one of your short stories. You're a good writer. This fucker isn't. Well, I think he is, actually. He at least has potential. But, like, it's just overshadowed. So, okay, Every character is two-dimensional, I was saying. Okay, Rinda is, well, she's a renegade merchant person who, she's a slut, she's a slutty slut because she's had 5 ex-husbands, but she's kind of nice, so we should sort of forgive her for it. We should still count it as a character flaw, though, to at least to a small extent. Um, let's see, there's, the Clickus robots are the only remotely complicated characters, and even they boil down to we're evil and we lie to and hate everyone. Uh, but unlike everyone else who's just evil, we actually have a goddamn reason. Because, spoiler alert, they're Skynet. Well, they're not Skynet ontologically. They're Skynet characterization-wise. They don't like the idea of biological organisms enslaving robots. That's their character. Sinister force that you are suspicious of, even though we don't care about anything except that we're actually evil and will kill you because you use robots. Or let's see, what about the Children of Thera? I barely fucking mentioned them because they are good. I like Tharok. I like Tharok. I wish this novel had been about Tharok to a much greater extent than it was. But even the good characters are two-dimensional. So like Neri, Nira. I am a well-meaning but I am a well-intentioned but somewhat naive girl who is experiencing the broader world for the first time and is fascinated by it. Otima, I am your experienced mentor who is grumbling fussy about certain specific things, but is for the most part rather calm. Fuck. Like, it would be easier for me to give you a list of good, like, get to the back quote. Let's get to the back quotes. Okay. First quote, Brian Herbert, co-author of Dune, House of Atreides, House of Atra something, Dune, House of Harkonnen, and Dune, House Corino. He said, and I think he's co-authored books with this guy, an exploration of the fantastic universe of Kevin J. Anderson's mind, a realm of wondrous possibilities which go completely fucking ignored. The characters are well drawn. No, they fucking aren't. The plotting is fast-paced. No, it motherfucking isn't. It's slow as shit. Nothing fucking happens for long sections of it. But thoughtful. No. No. That's the biggest distinction with Grimdark, between good and bad Grimdark. Good Grimdark, it tends to be smart. Bad Grimdark is stupid. This is fucking stupid. And stupid is okay sometimes. You can be stupid. But you can't be stupid while expecting yourself to be taken seriously. And that's what this book does. Fast-paced and thoughtful. A fascinating series, in a way, kind of, like as a sort of a guy, well, just talking about this book is fascinating in a way, which is why I guess I've managed to talk about it for quite a while now. Margaret Wise, author of Dragons of a Lost Star, which immediately I want to read that instead because it sounds much better. Then again, she likes this. Then again, Brandon likes this, and he's a good writer, so. Galactic fantasy at its adventurous and romantic best. There's fucking nothing adventurous about this novel. Like, it doesn't even attempt any kind of adventure plot. At all. At all. And granted, there are a couple of romance subplots, but they aren't a big deal. They're certainly not some of the best love stories ever. Or, like, even particularly good. They don't stand out. Intriguing characters. Intriguing, maybe, some of them. Not all of them. Love and Battle Among the Stars. A great read, not really. R.A. Salvatore, author of Transcendence. Now Kevin Anderson gets to bring all that he has learned to a place of his own making. The result is a setting so rich and detailed that the reader will suspend his disbelief and actually be there. Suspend disbelief and actually be there. Yes, the world building is good. That's the one thing I'll say about that. I kind of panned. Nothing about the world doesn't make any fucking sense. The problem is that the characters and their actions don't make any fucking sense. It's a good setting. The problem is that the plot is really badly handled. Or at least badly handled in a way that inhibits it. Because it's not as torturous as I'm letting on for the better part of it. It's just boring. Kind of boring and kind of frustrating. And I'm very thankful I'm done with it. I'm going to read the rest, of course, because I have to know. I have to know how it ends. I have to know how he manages to fail in the future novels, or if he manages to succeed, because that would be interesting. Like the way that I hate the first two Lord of the Rings movies, but I love the third one, and it's really interesting to think about what the first two get wrong and the last one gets right. Okay. It says Anderson's fans should be thrilled. I know I am. Okay. Here's Kate Elliott, author of Joran and the Crown of Stars series. And let me just note, I mean, I have nothing against any of these people, including Kevin J. Anderson. I'm sure he's a perfectly nice person. And I'm sure his other books are fantastic. Actually, I'm not sure I'd imagine his other books are probably fucking awful. Are probably as bad as this one. Which this isn't really a fucking awful book, it just kind of sucks. And it kind of sucks in very infuriating ways. Anderson tells his story on an epic scale. Yeah, it is pretty big. If anything, the scope of this novel holds it back because it doesn't have time to explore anything. And that's why the characters are so two-dimensional. It's a tightly plotted fuck no. Bullshit. Bullshit. No. Like I said. Fuck all. Tightly plotted my fucking ass. Nothing happens for all of this. Let me put my bookmark. Which nothing happens. By the way, it has markings on a library copy. I got this off of Amazon, so I do own this, which makes me briefly consider burning it, but I'm not going to do that. It's not that bad. It really isn't that bad. Tightly plotted. Fast moving. No. Adventure with all the right ingredients. Firstly, no, not an adventure. Not even remotely. This is like space. It's. Do you know what this is? This is a Halo novel. That's what this is. This is a shitty Halo novel. Well, it's a mediocre, below average Halo novel. That's what this is. Right ingredients. Cool aliens. Clever technology, not really. And that's not that much of a blast. It's just like, Miss Elliot, I do not know what you were referring to. None of the technology in here is particularly cool or uncool. I mean, the technology. This is kind of more a space opera-ish story where the technology and how things work isn't really the point. So there's not really a lot of cool technology. Most of it is just background type stuff that we've seen before. And where it is unique, it's unique specifically in service to the plot, and that's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing at all. But I don't know I don't know what she read. I don't know what novel she read. Intrigue. Yeah, yeah. And secrets, yeah, there are secrets. They're stupid and or infuriating, but there are secrets. Or at least some of them are stupid and or infuriating. A little a little romance. Yeah, a little. There's like, let's see, there's the space gypsy love triangle subplot. There is the alien human subplot. Seems like there's another one. That's um, a lot of action, not really, no. I mean, there are a few action scenes in this, like well, battle scenes, and they're okay. And enough twists and turns to keep you asking for more. Well, there are sure twists and turns. I mean, if they kept me asking for more, it was because earlier on I was curious, and I would say I'm still curious. I do actually want to read the second book. It's engaging enough that I want to read the second book, but it's not good enough that I anticipate enjoying it. Okay. Then finally, Catherine Kirks, author of the Dirini series. Light bulb is nearly out or something. And then there's a grammatical error here. The quote starts with, launches an impressive new series in the noble tradition of Frank Herbert's Dune Saga. Well, I've not read anything from Frank Herbert's Dune Saga, but no, this is not fucking impressive at all. At least this book. This is not an impressive start. It's deeply mediocre. Deeply, deeply mediocre. With the rich texture and complex plotting, yeah, the plotting is complex. It's really weak and stupid, but it is complex. That marked Herbert at his best. I'll tell you what, if this is what Dune was fucking like, I ain't reading that. And should establish Anderson as a worthy heir of that tradition. So yeah, closing thoughts. I have throughout this review you know talked about the negative more because I think in the case of this book the negative is way more interesting. The positive would be it sets up a morally complex political. Basically, it's what the world building is good. All of the positive things about this reduced to the world building. All of the negatives in this reduced to the characters who inhabit that world and their actions and what happens. That's ultimately what it reduces to. Kevin J. Anderson is a good world builder, but once he has that world, he doesn't know what to do with it at all. Everything good about this novel comes from the world building. the grander mysteries of the Cliquus, which despite them being done before, I will consider one of the good things, because they kind of are. All of the good things, world building. Everything else about this novel is just not good. The characters are not interesting at best, or at least not for the most part. Sari, the third Theron, the third Theron child. It's like Sari or something. She was interesting. She was barely in it. In fact, she was the only three-dimensional character, I think. Yeah. Yeah, there's one three-dimensional character in this novel. And at least she makes it to the end. So at least she might be in the next ones. But that's just what it reduces to. Kevin J. Anderson clearly cannot write people and event, or I'm not going to generalize about him from this one word. In this novel, he does not write people and events well. He comes up with a good, maybe there was a reason he was the co-author to some stuff before. Because he seems to be good at half the job of storytelling. Not so much at the other half. And so, trying to think if there's anything else I mentioned. The Hydrogues are, I hesitate to say their behavior kind of is on a line as to whether or not anything they do makes sense. Because on one hand, the humans did, kill millions of their people, but on the other, it's clearly an accident. It was clearly an accident, and they know this. And they really have no reason to continue with hostilities. Barring some other shit that happens. Well, okay, I'll talk about this. Another character who I consider one of the likable ones, even though I kind of don't like him because he's an idiot. Basically, what he did was he set it up such that asteroids would hit some of their planets, well, one of their planets from then on. And the book claims that there's no way to reverse that process. Bullshit. Bullshit. There's no way to reverse that process. If you could move all of those asteroids such that their orbit would collide with that of a specific gas giant, you could fucking move them back. So, yeah. That's all, I guess. Or, no, I had one more. Okay. I'm finally a rating. I'm going to give this book a 4 out of 10. It is thoroughly below average. And I want to give it a 3 out of 10, except that I know that the grimdark shit stuff won't bother some people as much as it bothers me. And, like I said, it was engaging at times. So I'm going to be generous. I'm going to be generous and give it a 4 out of 10. I struggle to think whether or not it deserves. I could, yeah, 4. That's, at the very least, that's rounding up. Even if it's not all that generous. I'm at least rounding up for this guy. Because I don't have anything, I've insulted him a little bit, maybe. I don't have a problem with him. I just don't like this book. All that said, goodbye, and next time, maybe I've not learned my lesson, but speaking of grimdark shit where everyone dies, we're going to see if that is an accurate description of a Game of Thrones. I hope it isn't. I hope, because I like chess mastery, and I actually like dark stories that know what they're doing. That's the problem with this novel, is that it's the wrong kind of dark story. It's not intelligent, like Breaking Bad or Death Note or Prole Magica Magica. All of those stories had brains. This one doesn't. It is a freaking it's a very dumb it's a very dumb, nonsensical kind of space opera. And that kind of story doesn't get to be grimdark. It just doesn't. Because it doesn't have... You need intelligence. Because the only alternative to an intelligent story is a lay back and turn your brain off story. And those are supposed to make you feel good, which grimdark can't do. Ever. So that's why all good grimdarks I've ever seen have been very intelligent stories. Death Note, Madoka, and also Orwell or obviously 1984 is extremely intelligent. So with that gone, I've rambled enough. See you in a year when I finish reading this. Bye-bye.